So we want you to create those for you, create the different opportunities for you there so that you have these committed to your memory so that you're able to go ahead and say, okay, this is who I am. This is what I have going on. And this is where I want to be. And so those highlights that you're going to go ahead and do that you can put together, because it's going to bring you up. You can use ChatGPT, you can use a friend. So oftentimes I use Jill. A lot of you guys, people listening to this podcast know who Jill is if you've been to one of our live events. And she runs through things, then she sometimes runs it through chat, all the different things like that. So we have different ways to do this, but I'll just give you my quick highlights. And this is the type of things, you don't have to be this in depth, you don't have to do that. But what are your talking points going to be for people?
Welcome to the Launch Button Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of successful entrepreneurs and real estate investors who found the courage to hit the launch button and take control of their destiny. Join me, Hugh, best-selling author, seasoned real estate investor, and serial entrepreneur, as we dive deep into inspiring stories and invaluable lessons that will empower you to break free from the ordinary and pursue your true passions. Are you feeling trapped in a job that drains your passion and leaves you yearning for more? Are you ready to accelerate your business and our real estate investing to take it to the next level? It's time to ignite your dreams and embrace the limitless possibilities that life has to offer. Get ready to launch into the life you've always desired by pressing the launch button.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Launch Button Podcast. In training, because we're also using this as a training for our team here to be able to go ahead and do this. And one of the things I want to talk to everybody about today is that ability to what we call edification. Now, one of the big keys in business is to make sure that we are building our network, building our relationships. And a lot of that goes to how we go ahead and will actually introduce people and edify people and be able to make those connections for people. The better you are at edifying the other person, the better you are at edifying yourself, or people know how to edify you, the more respect, the more understanding that people have. Because it is that edification process that allows people to go, I want to work with that person, or I don't want to work with that person. And, so as we talk about this, your branding, your education, all the different things that go with it, I want to make sure that you are really diving into how you're going to go ahead and be edified. And it's an exercise, like some of you guys know, I speak for the University of California, and we have a big event coming up. And they were asking us to, go ahead and give us the highlights. And it was like, we haven't really updated our edification that people do before. And edification can be the same thing as an introduction for people, give them some bullet points on how they can introduce you. And that's what a lot of people do, is they're going to create that so other people know how to introduce you, even if they don't know you. But at least now they have the highlights to be able to go ahead and say, hey, this is who this person is. That's why you want to listen to them. And it's a really big psychological opportunity for people when you get that third party validation. That's the other thing it's called, right? So you see, even with businesses, when you get your Google reviews, because people are going out there and they're reviewing your business, they're reviewing that and they're writing things that, like, that's the edification that you're getting from other people. We do this a lot in business when we want to introduce our business partners or our clients or other speakers on stage. We're going to go ahead and edify them so the other people get to go ahead and be able to open their minds to listening. Because if I say I'm great, most people go, whatever. But if somebody else says it, then you're going to believe them. And it's the same thing like with your kids and parents. You all know this with your kids. They stop listening to you. So you don't need the uncle, you need the friend to say the thing, and then they listen to it. We call that, and also in the speaking business, oftentimes you become an expert when you get on a plane. People tend not to listen to, and they start tuning out the local people because they see them all the time, versus when somebody flies in, all of a sudden they become that expert because they haven't heard from them. So they're open to listening, and you do the edification. And then the ideal thing is at the end of the conversation, you edify back the person that introduced you. So you keep that edification going. And what happens is, those of you guys on YouTube, you guys can see it. Those of you guys listen on your favorite podcast channel, you can just visualize it, right? If we both start off at the bottom of the screen, as that's our level, when I edify somebody, I'm going to pull them up to like mid-screen level. And then when they finish their talk or whatever happens to be, they're going to edify me back. So now I can come up to their level. We're automatically raising each other's levels in the minds of the people listening without us actually having to do anything. without us proving anything, all those types of things, but just the edification and respect from the other speakers, just the edification and respect from the other people in that room or the business or giving you the testimonial, whatever it happens to be, they're going to keep raising you up levels, and you can go back and forth doing that if you do it the right way. So as we were talking about going back out there, and it used to be for the University of California, it used to be their economic and development, right? Trying to help the local businesses there. And yes, I am white, so full disclosure on that. I am not part of that economic development there, but the ability for me to facilitate meetings is why they brought me into a very touchy subject in the academic world, as they were getting budgets and funding cut, and they needed somebody to come in that could handle both sides as well as keep the meeting on track. Now it's called the Economic Association Committee, the EAIC committee there, where before it was, the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, which is no longer allowed because you're going to get your funding cut. So we had to be rebranded, had to be renamed to be able to go ahead and do that. But to facilitate that, I need to be able to give them talking points. It's another way to call it, talking points about how they're going to go ahead and introduce me. And this is something that you need to create for you and for your business, because it's highly important that you give it to people before you show up at events, before you show up at meetings. What are your high level points? And then people will ask you questions about it, right? We don't have to go into a super amount of detail behind them, but we want to make sure that people understand that they're able to go ahead and do that and understand that this is who you are without you truly having to break into, right, all of the different things. So I want you to come up with 5 to 8 talking points. For those of you guys, that are part of the Entrepreneur Friendly, those of you guys part of the Final Percent Network, this is your homework for this week, because this is our webinar as well. So we're using this recording for dual purposes here, as we do run weekly 3 calls a week trainings that people have the ability to become part of. So you can actually do this live and do the exercises with us. Normally, we just have a slight conflict this week due to a family event going on. So we want you to create those for you, create the different opportunities for you there so that you have these committed to your memory, so that you're able to go ahead and say, okay, this is who I am. This is what I have going on. And this is where I want to be. Right? And so those highlights that you're going to go ahead and do, that you can put together, because it's going to bring you up. You can use ChatGPT, you can use a friend. So oftentimes I use Jill. A lot of you guys, people listening to this podcast, know who Jill is if you've been to one of our live events. And she runs through things, then she sometimes runs it through chat, all the different things like that. So we have different ways to do this, but I'll just give you my quick highlights. And this is the type of things, you don't have to be this in depth. You don't have to do that. But what are your talking points going to be for people, right? So what we came up with today, and this was just, it takes some time, and some of these are a little bit more advanced, so don't worry about it. But Hugh spent the 2 decades building a career in real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and personal empowerment. Since 2005, he has specialized in short-term rentals and cash flowing properties, while training over 12,500 investors and entrepreneurs, reaching over 20 countries to launch and scale successful ventures. He was known as a top action coach, inspiring audiences worldwide and with practical strategies for real estate, business, and personal growth. He is an international speaker from universities, UN-style events to large entrepreneur stages and conference centers. Hugh's trainings have been certified for continued professional development in the US by AAA and ACTD, and in the UK by ITOL and CPD. If you're in the tech world, you really know who ITOL is. He's a former certified continuing education instructor trainer in New York, California, Florida, and Texas. And Hugh is a best-selling author of The Launch Button and the host of the Launch Button podcast, which you guys are listening to on your favorite podcast channel. Make sure you subscribe and like and grab the YouTube. Hugh has been featured on numerous top podcasts, including those hosted by Sharon Lechter and Dr. Greg Kimball. So based on that, that is the edification that I would give to somebody running an event that wants to introduce me, to a speaking event, to somebody, a networking event that I'm showing up to. Those are sort of the top highlights. I even have those on LinkedIn, so that when people go to my profile, they're like, why do I want to connect with that person? So my question for you is, what are your highlights? And this is going to be one of your CDAs that we're going to go ahead and ignite for you, because it's part of your rocket fuel to success, as we talked about here on the Launch Button podcast, not only just getting off the ground, but staying in orbit as you're doing this. And I want you to go ahead and take a look at that and go, okay, what are the highlights? Not the great details, because you want people to be curious. Part of these highlights is for people to be curious and then be able to ask you additional questions, right? So that is one of the things that I want you to focus on this week. And we have like weekly assignments in our online coaching that we do, and our group coaching and our webinars that we do. And this is just one of them, because we're going to use this for the podcast and for our internal training. So those of you guys just listen to the podcast on your favorite podcast channel or YouTube, you get the added benefit of getting some homework this week, right? And this is just so you can scale and grow your business to be more successful with that. And part of that is going to say, okay, what would I, now there's two ways to do this. One, what is your current edification? Right. So write it out for you, write out your highlights, it could be all the way back to being a math wizard in school or something like that, or winning a trophy or something like that. And then two, if you don't feel you have enough, what is it that you want to be able to add in the future? So write those out so you can take the steps to get there. If it's, hey, you want to be on a stage, hey, you want to be able to do that. Well, maybe then you show up at our speakers boot camp, where we talk about people and we help get them on podcasts, help get them on stages, the different things like that. If you're like, hey, I want to dive deeper into real estate investing, maybe you come with us and you meet us at one of our real estate investor boot camps. We spend 3 days in the field getting you to take action to be able to do that. And you've seen some of our past podcast episodes with Joe and Amanda that have over 40 doors. With Gloria, that's how she actually found her dream home in the Keys of Florida 60 days after leaving that boot camp. And now they live on a property on the intercoastal right there in the Keys of Florida. They found that just from following the steps. And if you follow the steps here today on today's podcast about being able to lay out your edification for you, you're going to put yourself in a much better position to launch your business to the next level, or launch your real estate investment to the next level, so that you guys can be where you want to be. So take some time. This exercise can be done in 10 to 15 minutes of you just writing out, if you've got a CVO or a resume, you can pull things off of there. If you're an entrepreneur, we don't really have those things. So you've got to go pick the highlights, pick some of the big things that you've gotten done, some of the recognition that you've received. If you don't know, go ask 3 of your friends that are in business with you or doing business with you. Hey, what would you consider my highlights to be? Have them tell you. Then throw it into Chat GPT, throw it into Gemini, whatever you want it to be, and ask it to create your highlights for you. And they're going to go ahead and reword that. And that's what you're going to use to give to people, so that people can introduce you, so that people know who you are. And when you fill out, like, why should somebody allow you to attend this event? That's what you're going to put in there. You're going to give them those highlights. You're going to give them those things. So we're going to reuse this multiple purposely. And then if you really want to get serious, if you've got your speaker profiles and you got your podcast guest profiles that you've built out, you need to put those in there so that you can send them to podcast guests and hosts. So if I don't know the person personally, and most of the people I interview, I've met before, because I want to make sure that they can handle it to be on the podcast. So if you want to apply for the podcast, hit me up on Instagram or one of the social media channels, and we'll get you the form to go ahead and apply for the podcast. If you've got a story out there that needs to be spread out, that needs some rocket fuel or some jet engine to get to the next level, definitely go ahead and do that, so that we can put it in there and we can help you accelerate to the next level with that. So this is as we said, I'm one of the top action coaches in the country, according to lots of different people in the industry. It's not a title I came up with, but because they've done that, it really is true. I help you get out of your head, into your body, and start taking action. For those of you guys on the podcast, we keep these in under 30 minutes, or if we got guests on, it's under an hour, because we want to make sure that you have that ability to learn and apply things so that you can go back and do it. But today it's about, what is your edification? And then once you have yours, ask other people for how they want to be introduced, so you know how to talk about that, because it evolves over time. I was coaching one of our people today. He's like, I want to be a real estate coach. Well, I want to be ultimately a business coach. I said, okay, cool, but your expertise right now is business. So we've got to build you up as a real estate coach. Once you're high enough in a real estate coach, then you've done enough. It's the same thing as business. Then we can shift you over into being a business coach as well. He's like, awesome, I'm in, let's go. And so just understanding how we do that, how we build them up, so that you guys can go ahead and do that. And then how you get plugged in, because that's really important. Getting plugged in and staying with your networks, staying with the people. So all of you guys out there in podcast land, make sure you comment below once you've created your highlights that for people to introduce you to do the edification. Once you do it, just type edification in the comments down below that you've done it. And then if you want the form, also comment down below that you want the form on YouTube or any of the social media channels, and we'll give you the form so you can apply to be a guest on the Launch Button podcast. We got some pretty cool guests coming out from, after Fashion Week. We've got some top entrepreneurs from around the country that we work with. We've got even Stanley Cup champions coming back on. So there's going to be a whole slew of new podcasts coming out here in the fall and into 2026, because we're right around the corner for that. We want to set you up for success, and we want to help you launch to the next level. So everybody have a wonderful day. We'll talk with you soon, and go out there and make it happen. And we're here for you. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on the Launch Button Podcast, your gateway to unlocking your true potential and pursuing your passions. Don't let the journey end here. For more empowering insights, valuable resources, exclusive content, and free giveaways, visit www.thelaunchbuttonpodcast.com.